Well, welcome back to the virtual Canadian Executive Leadership Conference. My name is Mark Belaish. I'm president of TorontoEntrepreneurs.ca and TorontoJobs.ca. Glad that you've been able to make today's event and have a look. We have a great presentation coming up here. Karen Kelly is CEO of K2 Performance Consulting. Her topic is how do we balance the art and science of sales? So great topic ahead. Welcome, Karen. And thanks very much for being here, and take it away.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Mark, and welcome everybody. I'm delighted to be here today with you all. So as Mark said, we're going to talk about the art and science, how we balance the art and science of sales. And when you think about the pandemic and our businesses, some of them have really catapulted and others have plummeted. And so we have to ask ourselves, where do we balance the art and where do we balance the science? And I get often asked, what's more important than the other? And the answer is, and what I'm here to tell you today is we need both. So by the end of this 25-minute talk, you're going to walk away with minimum 5 strategic tactics that you can apply to your business immediately. And you're going to start seeing results really in terms of engagement, traction, and conversion rates, which of course is what we all want, right? So before we begin, when I deal with small business owners and entrepreneurs, the first thing they tell me is, I don't sell. I'm not a salesperson. Unfortunately, we are. So we're always trying to persuade, influence, sell our ideas, get our audience to think differently. So while we may not want to identify with that title, we are salespeople. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just in the chat box, if you could tell me when I say the word sales, what's the one word that comes to your mind? So just invite you to type that in the chat box. I'll get going. So I've added one there that I hear a lot. Okay, sales leader. Okay, so we have a positive, good. Money, yes. Pushy, that was me because I hear that a lot. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to ask you one more question. So that's the one word with sales. What about a picture? When I say the word sales, what's the picture, the image that comes to your mind? Again, if you wanted to write that in the chat box. Product exchange, yes. Okay, yeah, you got to exchange product for money, right? Okay, people, yes, absolutely. Thank you, Rachel. So there's a book out there, and I would highly recommend to whoever's not read it to read it. And it is To Sell Is Human by Daniel Pink. And he did the same study, and he asked the same question I just asked you. And when you look at this slide here, the size of the word is representative of the number of people who answered with that question. So you'll see pushy is huge, yuck, hard, difficult, all these negative words that you understand why people, think sales is a dirty word or they don't want to do it. And when the same question was asked about a picture, they said, suit to salesman, a pushy used car salesman. So all these images and words really are negative. And so when we know that this is a preconceived notion of our audience, we have to be more than intentional when we're dealing with them to create an experience for them that nullifies these thoughts, because I can tell you these thoughts are very prevalent out there. Okay. So in terms of the agenda, what can you expect in the next 25 minutes? I'm going to talk to you the art and science about, what is your roadmap? So when you're trying to engage customers or prospects, what stages are you following? Has your target audience changed? COVID's changed a lot of things. Are you still calling on the same type of business, the same person? And the third one is, am I creating an experience? Okay, so we're going to give you some tools on how to do that. So when you look at this picture below, you have to ask yourself, if I have a roadmap, does it look like the straight linear path, or is it, all misaligned and crossing over each other? And think about, if we're trying to attract people to buy our product or service and they don't know where to go and lines are crossing, we all know a confused mind does not buy. So how can we really create a process that makes it easier for our customers to buy from us? And you might think, well, you know what? I had a linear, straightforward process before COVID. And you might have had that. But so many uncertainties, so many variables, so many moving parts have happened that maybe it's crossover now and we need to make some modifications. And the number one thing I hear is, well, Karen, we're not at conferences anymore. How do I network? How do I meet people? So how do we really fill that pipeline in a remote setting? And we have to get these lines uncrossed to make sure that we're aware of that. Otherwise, we're going to have no pipeline. So when you look at a typical buyer's journey, and the reason I use the word buyer's journey is because we can have a sales process, we can have a roadmap, and it can align every step we take from top of funnel till close. But if it doesn't align with the way our buyers buy or are buying today, what's the point? We're not aligned with them. So I like to look at it from, the buyer's journey, and very high level. When you think about why do people buy, we can break it down into 3 phases. And the first phase is that awareness phase. So, usually they're aware of there's a symptom, might not be the full problem, or there's an element of frustration, and they just know what they're doing today is not sustainable. So there's an awareness. The next one is consideration. So now they're starting to look at what are possible solutions, suppliers out there who can help me fix my problem. And then the third part, they make a decision. So they purchase and they start implementing the product or service of whoever they chose. Now, the important thing for salespeople here is, and what I see too often is, we are not aligning our process to the way our prospects buy. And again, COVID has shifted things immensely, that the way they bought is different. So are we aligning the stages and the activities to meet them where they're at? So in that awareness phase, when they're realizing, things aren't really great, I'm frustrated, I might fully be aware of the problem, or I might be aware of the symptoms. So what can we do there? How can we get them to acknowledge they have a problem? What insights can we share? What questions can we ask to really heighten their awareness? Can we introduce very high level our value prop? Then when they're in that consideration phase, they're aware now, they're looking at these, line items, who can solve my problem? This is where you need to stand out. And what is your value prop that's going to align to whatever the solution is? And if you've met them in that awareness phase and you've educated them with insights, you've shown you understand the trends in their business, and now they're in the consideration phase, you've already stood out a little bit. So if they have a spreadsheet and they're comparing apples to apples, your box might have a little bit more color. It might be bigger, because they're starting to see you as a trusted advisor. That when you move to that next phase, when they make a decision, if the pricing, the value is right, then you're going to be the chosen one. So the important thing here is definitely having a sales process, but more importantly is align it to your buyer's journey. Otherwise, you're going right and they're going left, and these lines will never intersect. So quick summary here is, if you don't have a sales process, I would highly, basically just walk through what stages do you take to prospect, from that lead generation, that prospect, all the way to signing a deal. Write the phases down, and then write down activities that you can do in each stage that is going to move your prospect along. Again, knowing the way they buy. And some people say, well, I don't know how they buy. This is a great opportunity to have a conversation with them and just really understand what's changed in their business. It's all an opportunity to connect and reestablish a relationship, but just ask questions. What's changed? How do you do business now? Take that information back and start modifying your sales process. The sales process is never a one and done. So it's an iterative document. We're always updating, we're changing, because there's so many things out of our control. Product changes, industry changes, COVID. Okay, so we have to ensure that we're staying on top of it. So that's the first area, is really having a roadmap, knowing where you're going, where your customer is going, and how can you take them there and go there together so that you're co-creating this solution. The next part is looking at your target audience. And when you look at this Fisher person out here, they're very lonely. And you think about, what, I knew who my audience was pre-pandemic, but now, if there's no geographical boundaries and, perhaps you sell a service, I have no boundaries anymore, so I can go anywhere. Or conversely, maybe your audience, the industry, is no longer doing what they do, and there's been some changes. So assuming that everything is status quo and the target audience is the same is a fatal error. So this is where we're going to look at your target audience. And a lot of people are saying, well, how do I grow my business? And the one thing I say is there's an acronym, ICP, and it's your ideal customer profile. And you think, well, how do I get more business? And so what we suggest is create a list or look back at the people you've ever done business with and understand what made that exchange successful? So why was it so good? And this is someone who's actually done business with you. So there's a desire, who do I want to do business? But you want something that's proven, that's tried and true. I worked with this industry, with this person to achieve this results based on this problem. And this is the experience. So we really want to capture the experience, emotion. So what did they feel going in? What was that before state, that frustration, that overwhelm? And the language is very important. And then on the other side, how did we help them achieve that solution? And what we're trying to do here is really leverage that before and after state to really understand it and rinse and repeat. Go get new customers with it. So looking at the industry, are you targeting fintech? Are you targeting CPG? Whatever your industry in. Within that industry, who is the person or the persona or the title? Is it, for your B2B, is it the CFO? Is it director of operations? So who is this person? And then what are their challenges? So is there overlap that you can start going into these industries with these titles and sharing insights or getting resonance, showing them you understand their business because of the past success you've had with like-minded clients. So many times I see people doing this, the spray and pray. It doesn't work. So really get granular, dig deep, and understand what problems were you solving for clients that you found success, and go out there, leverage the before to really start attracting the same type of customers. Because, if you're targeting a VP of a bank in downtown Toronto, if you target another bank downtown Toronto, VP level, similarly, those challenges are going to overlap. So it gives you a starting point. You're not coming in cold. There's some resonance. You can ask questions beyond that, but you're not going in with an empty hand. Now, that's the ICP, or the ideal customer, is really that profile or business level. But within that, there's a person you're dealing with. And this person usually has a title. And a lot of this is geared to B2B. So when you think about it, are they director of marketing? Are they manager of procurement? Whatever that title is, we really want to understand what's important to them. How are they measured? What metrics are important? What personally is investment? What can they personally get out of moving to your solution? And really get granular. Know what matters to them, because most often we haven't done their job. So how can we be empathetic to what they go through on a day-to-day? One thing I do is go on Indeed and Google director of finance banks. What do they do? So it allows you to have resonance and have a conversation that shows them you have an idea of what they do. So here we have, are they a business owner? Well, what do business owners care about? Are they a technical buyer? Are they a user? All these things we really want to get clear on who they are and what matters to them. So on a day-to-day, what does their day-to-day look like? And the more insights you have on this, the more tailored your conversations are going to be. You'll notice I have an arrow up and down here. And these arrows, represent above the line and below the line. And what I mean by this is, unless you're dealing with a single proprietary owner and they're the only person, there's always more than one person making a decision. So when we're sharing our value proposition, when the timing is right, we want to ensure that if we're talking to the user, that we're talking features, benefits, impact, budget, all the language and what's important to them. But when we're talking to the executive or the C-suite, they don't care about that. So what do they care about? They care about strategic vision, ROI. They time travel. So the last quarter, next quarter. So we want to be mindful of the language we use to really show them we understand their business, because there's a feeling of, if you understand me, you can help me. So we want to just make sure we're not using the same message on everyone, because their job's different and they're measured differently. Now, some of you might look at this and sometimes you might identify with this girl thinking, oh my God, I'm sending emails, I'm making phone calls, and I'm getting no response. And if this is the case, I would say just back up to that last slide and say, do I really know my target audience? Do I know what they're working on, their top 3 priorities, their challenges today? In COVID, they don't want to know 12 to 18 months. They want to know how you can help them today. So if you don't have any awareness of this, and you haven't done any homework, and you haven't had conversations with past clients, this is what's going to happen. They're going to ignore you. And when you think about the influx of outbound, whether it's phone call, email, it's crazy. It's very hard to stand out. And the response rates are down 40%. So it's more important now than ever that we really understand our buyer and know what problems they're trying to solve. And so when you think about, where you're coming in at, and, there's the current state, what they're doing today, the future state, and your solution is the bridge. So they're getting the job done today. Whatever that job is, they're doing it. How can you show them that there's a better way, a quicker way, a faster way, a more efficient way? And what I see too often is people go in and they pitch. Right away, they go in and they start pitching their solution and they go to that future state. But in your prospect's eyes, they don't have a problem. So you're trying to sell a solution to somebody who's in denial and they don't have a problem. So the recommendations are start at the current state and start introducing some doubt that what they're doing today is not sustainable, or gain acknowledgement that they do have a problem. And how do you do that? You ask illuminating questions. You ask insightful questions. You share industry trends, insights that get them thinking, maybe there is a better way. Maybe we could look at that. It's not a PO right away, but you've got them to think differently. And that's what you want. And too often they just jump to the pitch and then they're out. And when people do that, it contributes to those pushy, sleazy, slimy, all the names that we're known for in sales. So really start at that current state, situational. How are you getting the job done today? You're just seeking to understand, your information gathering, you're building rapport, and then you can start poking holes a little bit, introducing some doubt, letting them feel that the foundation around them isn't as strong as they once thought. Okay. So I would just say, when you're engaging with your clients, and we know the awareness, the consideration, and the decision-making phase, make sure that when they're in the awareness phase, they're coming to that, things aren't great here. You're not pitching. People are not in buy mode when you call them. So how can you align your strategies, your approach, your communication to the phase they're at? And there are indicators. So we want to be aligned, because the worst thing in the turnoff is, and I get it all the time, people are trying to sell me something and I'm like, you don't even know what I do. So it just contributes to sales not being recognized as a profession and not taking your company serious. So we've talked about a roadmap, really know where you're going, know where your customer's going, and how can you align them to create a predictable path to get from A to Z. Then we talked about the target audience. So has it changed? If it does, where are we going after them now? But the language we use, if there's no resonance and people don't understand me, right away I dismiss them because they probably don't know how to help me. And the third part we're going to go to now is the experience. And I heard this term mentioned a few times just in the beginning of this session today. And our job is to create an experience. And think about the last 2 years. We've been through some tough times. So how can we make it enjoyable? How can we remove friction? And how can we get our audience to tell their friends about us so that there's repeat business? And our job is to create an experience. So I want to just ask you, when a sale is complete, so you've managed to sell your product, your solution, your service, in the chat box, I'd like you to write down the percentage. So what percent of the decision is based on you? So the salesperson, the business owner, how much weight do you carry in them making a decision? So 37%, 42%, 53%, or 69%. So I would invite you to write that in the chat box. Okay, 53. Kylie, that's good. What else do we have? Let's get a few more numbers up there. 53, Carrie. Anybody disagree with 53? Feel like an auctioneer here. Let's get one more number up there. Five, four, three, two, one. Okay, we'll stuck with 53. Thank you, Carrie and Kylie. And you are correct. It's 53%. So more than half the reason people buy is because of you. So too often I hear, well, you know what? The process is the process. It's the way it is. I can't do anything. Yes, you can. More than half the reason is you. So how can you create an experience for your audience? Now, when we see OPP as Canadians and Ontarians, we automatically go to the police, right? There's something I teach and I really, I do myself, and it's the OPP is the other person's perspective. And what it does is before a call, before a session, you just 3 to 5 minutes is a very quick exercise. Tap into your prospects, your audience's brain, and think about, what do they want to get out of this meeting with me? What are their hopes? What are their fears? And then all of a sudden, you're coming at it from their lens. So the questioning is tailored. You're seeing things through their eyes. But most often we're thinking, okay, I got to get through slides 1 to 14. I got to make sure they do this. I got to do this. And that's very seller focused. And they feel that. There's difficult to build trust. There's a disconnect. And they feel like you're not interested in helping me. You're just interested in selling me something. So take things from the other person's perspective and just be very intentional before you engage with them on the phone, on a Zoom call. What are they thinking? What are they afraid of? Why did they take this call? What do they hope doesn't happen? And then you can start being very intentional with your messaging. And all of a sudden they're thinking, wow, this person, they're different and they actually get me because you were intentional, very short, but before the meeting. Think about again, how do you want to make them feel? Okay, so this is the art and science. This is 53% of it is you. How do you want to make them feel? Because people buy an emotion. And really what this comes down to is being intentional, not waiting into the middle of the meeting and hoping that something happens. Hope is not a strategy. We have to be intentional before. I want them to be motivated. I want them to be frustrated. I want them to really look at their current state and say, we can't do this anymore. But if you're not intentional, everything you do is not going to line up to support that. The next one is connection. So again, we're creating an experience or trying to create an experience. How can we create connection? And a huge one that is so underused, but so impactful is storytelling. A lot of times people are bragging about how great their product is, how many people they've sold. You can still share those stats, but bury it or embed it in a story, a customer story. And what your audience is looking for is they're looking for that before picture to go, I see myself in that picture, in that story. And there's that current state is a bit of frustration, but then you share that, future state or how it ended up. And they're like, wow, if they could help them, chances are they can help me. So use stories to disarm, to connect, to build trust. And meet them where they're at. So we talked about this in, the buyer's journey. If we're trying to connect with them, we have to align at the beginning awareness phase, because a lot of times we're just jumping at the end and we're pitching. There's no connection there. Okay. People buy from people that they like. And at the end of the day, we have to create a very humanized connection, because all we're doing is remote. There's tech everywhere. How can we separate ourselves to really build trust, disarm them, and show them we care? We genuinely care and we're trying to help them. So for those of you who struggle with the word sales, replace it with help. I'm trying to help you. I know your solution. I know the problem you have because I've seen it many, many times. And I know the solution is going to help you because I help many, many people. Just by shifting that lens, your approach is way softer and just a lot, it's received better from your audience. The final thing is curiosity. So in some businesses, we're very authoritative. So maybe we have a legal business, an architectural business, and we have a strong skill set. But how can we lead with curiosity? How can we get them to tell us more in a seeking to understand and leaning to that curiosity by asking questions, because we really want to determine if in fact we can help them. And I think when you come at it from that angle versus this authoritative standpoint, people connect with you, they disarm. Okay, we don't know what state they're coming at us. If especially you think about lawyers, they're coming at us, their marriage is broken up. They're very emotional. So how can we connect with them and not come across talking retainers, but come across it from the standpoint of, I want to understand a little bit more about what happened so I can see if I can help you. It's a completely different approach. And then the last one here is, what's the question behind the question? So whether it's a question, an objection, this is just where the art comes in, really reading your audience and just saying, where did that come from? There's something bigger there. I have to peel back the layer and acknowledge that, because they're not sharing the whole picture, or I'm not building trust, or I'm not digging deep enough, but there's something bigger there and I have to get at it. So those are ways that you can really help create an experience for your audience. So before I summarize, I'm going to open the chat box for any questions you have based on what we talked about, having that roadmap, targeting your ideal customer, or creating an experience. Any questions, if you have any, on either one of those topics, you can post it in the chat box now. Okay, so just quick summary. We talked about the roadmap. So this is really the buyer's journey, making sure that you're aligning your sales process with the buyer's journey. Has your target audience changed? Talk to your customers, see what's changed. Update based on these conversations. Update your sales process so you know the stages they're at. You know the activities to do within the various stages, and you're having these tailored conversations. And then really look at creating an experience. So be very intentional with it, not in the call, before the call. In the call is too late. You're firing at too many cylinders. So before the call, what do I want them to feel leaving this call? What stories can I help to support this? And so the call to action, I would say for you is, I would say, look into your database. First of all, I'd say if you don't have a sales process, get one in place. Then I would say reach out to customers, past customers, and ask for a conversation and just say, what's changed in your business? Start educating yourself, but you're also reconnecting with them. And I think those insights you gather are going to help you moving forward. And the last piece, and a very valuable piece, is ask for referrals. We're so afraid to ask for referrals. This is the quickest source of new business. It's proven. And we hold our punches. We choke up. And you just think, why? But you have to hit them when the emotion's high. So after you've had a good success, who else do you feel could benefit from this? Would you be willing to make an introduction for me? Do the legwork, create an email, but ask for referrals. Okay, so I see a question here. Thank you, Kylie. Any tips on engaging existing clients for new opportunities? Just what I mentioned, referrals. Okay, so who else do you have you benefited, or do you feel could benefit from this? Also look at I would say also look at what you've done in the past for them. Do they have new employees now that you might need to repeat that? Has their business changed? Like, what else can you do to go in there to support them? You supported them once, you met a need, understand what's evolved, what's changed. How can you customize or tailor your solution to meet their evolving needs? And have that conversation. How can we continue to work together? Remind them of the problem they had before and the outcome you helped them achieve. What else can we do together? Okay, so that's it from me. Thank you so much for your time. If anyone would like to connect, I'm on LinkedIn. My profile's got everything here. My business is K2 Perform, and my email is Karen@K2Perform. And I would just say, don't be afraid of sales. It's fun, and you're just there to help people. I think when we remove the stigmatism and the pressure on ourselves, we're just trying to connect and help people, and it's that easy. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the conference.